What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Um, it's been a while, so I hope all of you are all good and fine. So I've been off for a couple of weeks, and I left you all on a cliffhanger of the part one series where we spoke about wireframing and designing of your templates using Figma. And finally, we're at this junction where we'll be utilizing that wireframe in Power BI to answer some business questions by building a very visually appealing dashboard. So welcome back once more to Talk Data with Danny as we dive into the second part of our project. All right, guys, let's talk about what we have here on our screen. Okay, so this is going to be the final result of our dashboard, and it's a data set on sales merchandise. Okay, and this is what it's going to look like when we are done. We'll have our 2-pager reports, the sales overview, and then the merch performance. Okay, so it's a 2-pager report, and in this video we'll be talking or we'll be going over things like data normalization and modeling. We're talking about usage of DAX. We're talking about creating of charts. Also, we'll be using things like field parameters, and we'll be using also things like custom tooltip. So if you see here, the chart is, or our dashboard here is actually quite, interactive. It has a lot of insights, and I'll be showing you guys how we're able to come up with all of this. Okay, it's a very simple report, highly interactive. You can use the search menu to search for countries. We'll have our year-on-year calculations on there as well. Sorry, our year-on-year calculations on there as well. You can see. And then we'll have something special here that is hidden. Or if we come over here, we'll have our summary tooltip. Okay, that gives us a summary of the page we're on. Same thing here as well. Same thing here as well. We'll have it here. Okay, and then we can move between different KPIs for our charts. Okay, so this is what we will be doing today. All right, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's just get started. Let's talk about the main theme, which is our problem. Let's look at the scope, we'll look at the data, and then we're going to import it into Power BI. All right, so by the way, all of the information needed will be provided in the description. There will be a GitHub repository that has the data sets, the business questions, and if I'm feeling happy, I might include the actual reports for you guys to see so that I can play around with it and get the DAX measures on there. Or I can just compute everything into a sheet for you guys. But that's by the way. So now, if we look at this, it's a very simple analysis. It's the very popular sales analysis, okay? And we'll be working or we'll be assuming the role of a data analyst for, Lee Chapman, all right? Who is he? Lee Chapman is a popular influencer from the United States with over 7 million TikTok followers. He became famous for his entertaining videos where he plays popular songs on miniature guitars. 2023, Lee Chapman launched his own line of merchandise, and this analysis just looks at how his merchandise sales are going and what we can learn from the existing data. All right, and we'll have some questions here. I will be answering some of them over the course of this video. So these are some of the quick questions we'll be using to guide our analysis. What are they? We need to understand the overall sales trend. We need to find out which product categories perform the best. Okay, we need to find out the most popular and the least popular products, how location affects sales, what impact does international shipping have on sales, what is the demographic profile of our buyers, the ratings and reviews, the trends in shipping charges, discounts, and all of you. So these are the questions that will be guiding us over the course of this exercise. All right. And now that we've understood these questions, we're going to quickly look at the data set, which I've opened in Excel. All of this will be provided for you guys, by the way. So this is the data set we have here, and it's made up of about, I don't know, close to maybe 15 or 16 columns. We have our products category that houses everything. We'll have the buyer gender. We'll have the buyer age, the location, which houses all of the locations on there. Sorry, we'll have the other ID as well. We'll have the other dates when the purchase was done. the product ID, the product category, the gender, the age of our buyers, the location, the longitude and latitude. If it was an international shipping, so we'll have yes or no. We'll have the sales price, we'll have the shipping charges, we'll have the sales per unit, which is our unit price. We'll have the quantity, and then the actual value. All right, the actual value, and then we'll have our ratings and review. All right, so this is what we'll have on here. All right, so I've gone through the data. It's pretty much clear, but we'll look at it better when we load this into Power Query. So I've opened a fresh Power BI report for you guys real quick. I'll be doing that now. So I'm opening a fresh Power BI report. All right, so there we go. We'll be opening up a blank page on there. Let me move this to another screen to help us, just better understand. All right, so the main purpose of this here will be performing what we call the ETL process. What does that mean? It's just the extraction, the transformation, and the loading of our data into our model. That's what we'll be doing here real quick. So we need to get our data. I think the data is in an Excel file. So we'll quickly pick this up from here. And then I'll go to my source. I think I have it. Yeah. Okay. What was it for? Unsettled place, the projects. Let me quickly confirm the location of that data. And of course, it's an Excel, port 5, guided projects. Okay, I think that's it. Is it a zip file? Yes, it is a zip file. So let me just quickly move this. Control C. And then let's move it to our desktop, Control V. All right, why? I'll quickly extract. And I will drop it here. Where we're extracting to? We'll be extracting to same desktop. All right, we'll be extracting to desktop. And I believe we should have a copy right here. If we haven't done that, I can't find it. Let me do that again real quick. I'm going to extract, and then we'll be putting it. We're putting it at the desktop. Let's just replace. Okay, I think it did that. So let's find out if we can get that file. So import data from Excel. We'll go to desktop. I believe. Okay, I think this is it. I think we extracted it all over the place. That's it. Let me look at it real quick. So that's it, yeah. So we'll pull in our data and the dictionary if needed. And then we'll be transforming the data. We'll be transforming our data real quick. So here you can look at whatever you want to look at here. All the informations are here on the 17 columns. It's pretty standard. So what we'll have here is our data, and then we'll be breaking this data into our facts and into our dimensions real quick. And that's what we'll be doing. We'll be breaking it into our facts and into our dimensions. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and then I won't duplicate, but I'll reference the data. We'll create a new reference. We'll call this facts, right? We'll call this sales facts. Sales facts. That's what we're going to do. All right. So what do we have here in our sales facts? We house all the factual information, and then looking on here, our sales facts, and I will also reference this, and this will be our product dim, right? Product dim. And then let me also reference this again. This is our main data. And this will be our location dim. All right, so this here is going to be called, I can rename this. This will be called our staging data or query or whatever I want to call it. So we can apply some we can apply some some pre-data cleaning techniques here, and then should reflect on the other ones. Okay. So the first thing I want to do here for our product information, okay, the thing I want to keep is I want to keep the product ID, I want to keep the products category, and I want to keep our product ID, product category, and then I want to keep, I think we should have our products. Is there any other thing relating to the products? I'm gonna look at it real quick. I think that's pretty much it, right? And then I will remove other columns. To remove other columns, I'll come here, right click, and I'm going to remove duplicates. So just like that, we'll have our product information right here. Okay. I will come here as well. We'll have our location information. We'll have the others location. We'll have longitude and we'll have latitude. I think those are the only information relating to this. And the same thing, I will remove other columns. And then for us to get our primary key here, what do? I would mark this, and I'll mark this too. While both of them are selected, I'll come here and then I'm going to remove duplicates. So what this happens is that this gives us, we've created like a virtual key that uniquely identifies each combination of our longitude and latitude combo. And then I can quickly insert a new index column, and then we can call this location ID. Okay, or rather location primary key. So for the facts, what do we need? We'll leave this here to create our connection, but all the columns we have on there needs to be gone. So the product ID, the other location, so this will be gone, this will be gone. We don't need this. Other location, I will remove. The products category, I'll also remove as well. And then what else? So I have the buyer's gender, buyer's age, latitude, and longitude. We'll be using this tool for something right now. So I'll come here on this sales facts and I will go to home. I will go to merge queries and I'm going to pick the location dimension. All right. I'm going to pick the location dimension, and then I'll pick our latitude. The way you highlight it is very important. I'll do the same here as well. And then we're going to check for matches. Once everything is done, we'll be using the left outer. I'll click OK. And then the thing I want to return here is, I just want to return the location primary key. All right. Location primary key. I forgot to uncheck something there. Okay. So having this, I don't think we'll have need for this and this anymore. So I'll quickly remove those columns. Okay. I'll quickly remove those columns. Now, the final thing I'll be doing here is to create our buyer's age, right? We want to create something like a group, a category where we'll group them into specific age groups. All right. So that's what we'll be doing here right now. By the way, I'll right click and I'll say we don't want this to load. So that's our staging data right there. We don't want this to load. All right. We only want to load these other ones. So this is a data warehousing technique that you use a lot in data warehouses. Well, you can also adopt the same technique for Power BI as well. So basically what I've been doing is I'm trying to normalize data a little bit and to enable us to create a simple star schema. All right. So the final thing I will be doing here is to create our age grouping, and then we'll push this into our data real quick. So let me get the exact grouping I used for the buckets. So I think I used 18 to 24, 25 to 29, and 30 to 35. Let me check the minimum and the highest age there. So I have 18, and the oldest age there is 35. Fantastic. All right. All I need to do is highlight this. I will go to add columns. We'll create a conditional columns. There are multiple ways you can do this, by the way. And we're going to call this age bucket. All right. Age. Call this age bucket. Call this age bucket. So it's a very simple use case of your if statements here. All right. So say if the age, the buyer's age, if the age is greater, right? If the age is greater or equal to 30, what do you want to return? I want to return 30 to 35. If the buyer's age is greater than or equal to, what's our next benchmark? I think it's 25. We'll say want to return 25 to 29. And then else, right? Else I'll just use 18 to 24. And then I'll click on OK. And just like that, we'll have a new column called age buckets. And this is the beauty of using Power Query for your data cleaning and transformation. Okay, so let's quickly check. Let's filter out 18 to 24. Let's see what we get. If the ranges work perfectly fine. Let's see. You can see. So everything looks good. Everything looks good. So the next thing we'll be doing here is I'll come to home and then I'll apply and close. And just like that, we'll give it a second for it to load the data into our model. So if you see here, you'll see real quickly that only these tables were loaded into our model, and we'll have it has auto created the connection for us. Okay, because the names, I'm going to hide this because the names are pretty much, good. So the next thing I'll be doing is we'll be creating our calendar. All right, we'll be creating our calendar, and then we're using that calendar for our time series analysis. It's very simple, by the way. It's very, very simple. So looking at our data, right? There are a lot of ways you can do this. Looking at our data, what we'll be doing, we want to locate the minimum, right? We want to locate the minimum month and then the maximum month, and then we use those two as our range to create the calendar for our model. So we're doing that right now. All right, so what we'll be doing here real quick, we'll be creating a new dimension table for our dates, and you can easily do that by coming to coming here to, I just had a brain freeze. 1 second here. So this is our model view, of course, and I'll be creating a new table. We're creating a new table. All right, we're creating a new table. Sorry about that. Let me close that real quick. Let me discard the changes. I've not used Power BI for 2 weeks and all of a sudden I'm just having a brain right now. Okay, so we'll be creating our new table right here. How I missed this, I don't even know. But it's just right there. Sorry, that was what I was looking for. Why? Because we'll be using DAX for this table. Yeah. And I'll paste this in here. And I'm going to explain what I did here. All right, so we want to create a complex calendar that ranges from the minimum dates, right? That ranges from the minimum dates to our maximum date in this range. So we want it to dynamically expand as the data grows. So I didn't want to use the calendar auto because that would have worked. That would have been easier, but it's going to give us some outside the scope, outside the date scope data points or date points that when you use them or click on them, it's going to return not. So we don't want that. So how do we do that? It's very simple. We'll be using our calendar here. We're calling this our calendar, all right? And then it's very simple. We're creating this a variable. What are we assigning to that variable? We're giving it a variable name of the minimum date. What's our minimum date? I'll be using the date function. I assume everyone here has some basic understanding of DAX and Excel functions, so you should be able to understand this, but of course, like I told you guys, over the next months, I'll create the curated scheme and I'll cover all these things individually in separate videos. So we want to use this date to pull out the minimum year from our order date, the minimum month, and then our day should be 1. And for the max date, we want to get the end of the month off the latest date in our model and want to return, 0 there to give us the last date. And then for our base calendar is just the range of this and this, you get. And then we return in Y because we created these variables. So whenever you create the variables, you have to return. So what we return is we want to create a concrete and a very comprehensive date table. You can reuse this, by the way, for literally any other project. All you need to do is just change this portion of it and it should work perfectly fine for you. So we want to use the add column function, all right? And then we'll be calling this base calendar here because we want to get access to this range, right? We want to gain access to this range. And then from here, we'll be extracting our year. So this is the name of the column, year. This is the name, this is the information I want to pull out. So we're pulling out the year, the quarter, the month number, the week number, and so on and so forth, all right? And that is how we're able to create this calendar right here. So I'm going to run this, and then I'll connect this date. I'll connect this date to our other date right here. And it's still going to be one-to-many relationships. Let me confirm. All of them should be one-to-many relationship as well. Okay? Should be one-to-many relationship. You can see it here, one-to-many. And if we come here to our table view, you will see here that we have our complex dates here. I see it. All of the data information we need. So we have from 1st of November 2023 down to, I think the latest one should be December of 2024 of 30th of November 2024. All right. So that was our final, okay? Now, the next thing we'll be doing here is we'll be creating some tables, blank tables. These tables we house the measures we'll be writing, okay? We'll be needing like 2 tables for this. We're needing 2 tables for this. It's very simple. All we need to do is to come here, enter data, right? And we'll call this, let's use underscore analysis, right? And then load. And just like that, you should have the table right there. And then I'll do the same thing again. New, enter data. And we'll call this underscore time intelligence. So this will help us write our DAX measures. Okay, this is what's going to help us write our DAX measures. So let's come back here real quick. There's something I want to do in our facts table. I want to create 2 calculated columns. All right, one to get our sales tag, and then the other to get our star rating. Okay, to get our star rating using Unicodes. Now, for the sale type, it's very simple. I would let's add a new column here. Let's call this, let me zoom in. Let's call this sale type. Let's call this sale type. So our sale type will be equal to, it's very simple. I would say if our international shipping, right, our sale file international shipping, if it's equal to no, right, equal to no, which is this column here, what do we want to return? We want to return local, right? I want to return local. Hence, we want to return international, right? I want to return international, and then I'll close this right here. And just like that, we'll have grouped it into international and local settings. Now, the next thing I'll be doing here is I'll be creating a second column, and this column will just give us our star rating. Okay. I'll just copy and paste there. It's a simple switch function, by the way. It's a simple switch function. All right. So it's just very simple switch. If our rating is 1, so if your star rating is 1, return 1 star, one full star, and some empty stars. You can use Google or whatever to get this emojis. These are emojis, by the way. You can get them. You do the same thing for this 2. Don't worry, all of this will be available for you guys. We'll have our 3, our 4, and we'll have our 5 stars right here. Can't remember why I did this, but I think I tweaked it into something else while I was analyzing the data. And just like that, we'll have our second column right there. Now back to our main page, we'll be writing some of the key measures we need for our analysis. And the first thing we want to get is, let's just say, all right, click and we'll create a new measure. I want to create our total shipping. So what is the total shipping? Total shipping charges. So our total shipping will be equal to, we'll sum up, I want to sum up the shipping charges, right? I want to sum up the shipping charges, and we'll run that in. Let's quickly check if the measure is working properly. So create a blank card visual. I'm still taking it out. Since they're taking out the old card visual, can't find it here anymore. Can get to get that from latest updates. So I'll quickly drag this in, and you will see here, you can see 108K. All right. I will come here now, and then I'm going to hide this. I don't need this anymore. And then what else? I can change this to whatever currency I want. Okay. But let's just focus on the measures. So for us to get our total sales, so what is the total revenue generated? I'll come here, new measure, and our total sales will be equal to the sum of our total sales. All right. Then the third measure is we have to get here for our KPIs is the total quantity sold. And how do we get the total quantity sold? It's very similar. Our total quantity sold will be equal to the sum. That was summing. We want to sum our quantity column. All right. We want to sum our quantity column. We want to get the measure for our total orders. So to get the total orders, right, to get our total orders, all we need to do is to use the count rows functions. So that'll be equal to count rows, or you can count the ID if you want, or just count the table. Either way works. There are always multiple ways. We want to count rows of our sales, facts. All right. So for the star rating, for the average star rating rather, we'll be creating. So once you get our average star rating, I'm just copy and paste because of time. Our average star rating will be this. Average star rating is equal to the average of sales facts rating. That's our star rating. The average quantity sold. Again, we also need this. You can see it right there. Fairly straightforward. All right. By the way, you can call your existing measure if you want. Average shipping. I'll create a new measure. The average shipping is just the average of our shipping charges right there. And then so we need to get our male, we need to get our female orders, and so on and so forth. Yes. We need to get our male, and we need to get our female orders. So for the male orders, right, and the female orders, it's very simple. So for our female orders, we'll be using what we call the calculate function. What does the calculate function do? It basically gives you the option or the ability to alter the filtering context of your existing data or calculation or DAX in this case. So basically what I'm doing here is I say, okay, fine. These total orders we've written before, right? We want to calculate it, but we want to make sure we only calculate this when the buyer gender is equal to female. That's that. All right. That's that. We'll need one for the male as well. We're going to need for the male too. So the male orders is very simple. Ctrl C. I'll just create a new measure. And I'll paste this right here. And I'll highlight this whole thing, hold down Ctrl T, and I'll type male. That's it. Boom. And we are good to go. So what next do we need? We want to also get our international. So very similar to what we did before, right? We want to get our international sales. And how do we get it? Still the total sale, but that's where the shipping, international shipping is yes. So this is our international sales right here. We'll run that thing. Same thing for the international orders, right? Same thing for international orders. Just the same thing. The only thing I'm changing here is we're changing the measure from total sales to total orders, and the rest is pretty much the same thing. Okay. Same thing for quantity. Same thing for quantity. You can see right here. Again, the only thing I'm changing is just the measure I'm calling total quantity sold, which we've written before. I'll run that in as well. We're creating all of the measures we need. And because we have our international, we also need to get our local as well. So it's the same thing. The only difference is now instead of international shipping to no, to yes, we're changing it to no. That's the only thing. Okay? So these measures are very reusable. I will do that again. Let me paste. You can pause if you want to look at it better. We'll have that right there. For the sales, I think I already have the local sales, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just add this. We'll have our sales. We'll have our mail orders. And there's something I want to use here. We'll call this our timestamp. We're just using the now function. All right. And I'll tell you why we're using the now function. This is our last visits. And then we're using the now function and we're formatting this into day, month, year. Okay. So there's a mistake right there. But it just gives us the current dates. Okay. And then what else? Our dynamic. What else? So this one is a little bit long. I can't really explain this right now. But basically, this is a measure that gives you, or I've given you a lot of pointers so that when you look at it, you can see what each block does. It's just a dynamic um month text that shows the month being selected. Okay, that shows the month being selected. I'll tell you when we use this and I'll explain further. But you just create this for the time being. All the measures will be available, by the way. All right. So what next do we need? Am I missing anything? Let's also create a blank. We'll be creating a blank measure. Again, just do this. I'll tell you when this will come in handy. We'll just blank equal to that's it. Very simple. What else am I missing? So we need to get our sales difference. So international and local sales, what's the difference? Right? It's just the local sales minus international sales. That's all. Okay. I'll run this in as well. And then I think the final one we'll be creating is our average star ratings. So this is what it looks like. All right. It's very simple. We want to be able to denote half stars as well. So we'll be using something called the rep function. In order for us to do this, we want to get number one, the average star rating. We want to get our rating in ints. We want to get our half rating. What's the half star? It's just the rating minus the full rating when it's greater than 0.5. So that's going to give you an half star. You get, which is a small star. And then empty stars, you can see the function here, right? I see the function right here. So this is what it does. And then I want to repeat the number of full stars, right? And if there's an half star or if it's an empty star, you get. So this is what this does. Again, I really wish I could go into in-depth details on how this function works, but that would take us like 3 or 4 hours. But just do this, and I believe if you do a little bit more research, you'll have a deeper understanding on how this works. Okay? So this is amazing. We've created all the base measures we need right now. So the next thing I'll be doing is to format my page for the importation of our background. And how do I do that? I'll go to our visualization. I will come to the canvas settings. I'll make sure I change this thing from 16 by 9 to custom. I think our height was 10080 and the width was 1920. That was the same dimensions we used on Figma. So if you haven't watched that video, I highly suggest you go back to watch it. All right. If you haven't watched it, that was how we were able to create the background we used for this. Now, you do that before you come back here to finish up. So our background is very simple. I'll come to the canvas background and then I'm going to import the image. Wherever it is. So mine is Match Sales 1. I will open it and then I'll change the transparency to 0. And just like that, we'll have our base to work with. Okay? That's it. We'll have our base to work with. So up next, we'll be working on how we will use. We're working on how we're going to use the visuals and the DAX measures to build our visualization real quick. All right, so we'll be continuing from here and we're going to quickly set up our KPI cards real quick. Okay. So I think we'll be needing the new card visual right here. We'll be needing new card visual. And then I'm going to put into that card visual our total sales, then the value, right? Then the value. And then I'll go down to reference label. And then I'm going to add here. I'm going to add the local sales and also the international sales. Okay. I'll quickly do that right now. So this is what our card visual looks like. So let me quickly get the what I used. Okay, so basically I think I used, let me quickly get that. the fonts. Okay, use Kandara 20. All right. So we'll go over to the call out here, and then for the values, I'll change this thing from DIN to Kandara 20. Right away, before anything, let's come over here. We'll turn off the background. We don't need it. Okay, Kandara 20, and we'll make it bold. And I think we use this color there. Okay, for the label. I think this will work. This works. Okay, that works. Maybe let me confirm as well. Okay, 10. I use 10 there. All right. So far it's looking good. And then for the reference labels, I'll figure it out. But let's just adjust this real quick. So the first thing I'm going to do here, I'll come over to the cards, right? We don't want any divider, or the divider can be there. We don't want any border. We don't want any background. Okay, we don't want any background. I think the divider will do 100% transparency. And then it's been a while I built on. And then let me see. One sec. Still on the card. Okay. Still on the card. Just one sec. Let me figure this out off camera. I'll be back in. So here on your divider, you turn off the ignore padding, and that should take out everything for us right here. Okay. So I'll quickly go down to I'm doing this for one, and it's the same thing for the rest. So I'll probably speed run through the other ones. So for the title, we want to maintain the same Kandara. I think I'll use 10 there. We'll make it bold, and then the color should be close to white as possible. Maybe let me use 8 or 9 there, and then the values, right? And then the values. So because I want to use for each and every one, for the local sales, we'll be using, let's use the primary color for our local sales. So that would be, I'm going to select this, which is a local sales. And then for the color, it's going to be, let me pick it up real quick. It's going to be our primary color, right? It's going to be our primary color, which is, okay, make it bold. And then for the international color, we'll be using this color here. We will be using this color here. Okay. We'll also make it bold, and then so have our international, we'll have our local sales right here. So let's quickly come back to the call out value. The label should be white as well. Yes, label should be white. But I want to make this thing in the sense that this comes down a bit, okay, so that I can fit in a line chart in there. So how do I do that? I would have to go to the border, and let's say if we can increase, can you see? I'm going to increase this till we get it to somewhere there. All right, we get it to somewhere there. That will hold, that might be too much, but that will hold a line chart right there. Okay, that's going to hold a line chart right there. So I'm going to quickly duplicate this and I'll put it right here. The next thing we'll need there is our total quantity sold. Total quantity sold. I'll just put it on top of here and I'll take this out. Okay, that's our total quantity sold. And then for our reference label, I'm going to bring in our average quantity sold. Okay, we're going to bring in our average quantity sold. So just like we did before, the title is going to be still Kandara. Then, and then the value is going to be Kandara 12. So we're going to use a lighter shade here. And for this, we're going to use a slightly darker shade. So it looks something like this. Okay, I'll duplicate and I'll bring it here. Here is going to be the total orders. I'm going to drag in the total orders in there. Total orders. Cool. Cool. Let's go to the card, the callouts. So for the value, I don't want, okay, so for our value, everything is looking good so far. Everything is looking good so far. Well, I'm going to click on that orders and I'm going to change this to 2 decimal places, right? I'm going to change this to 2 decimal places. For the total quantity, same thing. Make sure your data, your numerical values are set to 2 decimal places. All right. And then what do we need here? We're going to need, so for us to come down to the reference label, we're going to add our male, okay, and female orders. We're going to add our male and female orders. So the usual. Let me see if I can format this. Nope, it's not going to work. So then okay, let's use 8. I think we use 8 for both of them. I think it matches the aesthetics better. So that, and then for the value, we use 12. We use a lighter shade. All right, so it's going to look something like this. Also, the male and the female orders, 2 decimal places as well. Very important. And then this is the most tedious part, creating your KPIs. The rest will be fairly easy. So looking at this, I think what next we need here is going to be the total shipping. I'm going to drag in total shipping and I'm going to drop it right there. This right here is our total shipping. And then the only thing I'll be adding at the reference level will be, and just type shipping. It's going to be the average shipping. Okay. It's going to be the average shipping. The title. And then All right. So have most of our KPIs here. And then finally, I will drag in our star rating. So the average rating, I'm going to put it right here. So that's our average rating. And then in the call out value, we're going to add, let me type star, our star rating right there. You can see, right? That's our star rating right there. We don't need the title. We don't need the title. And also the value should be, I don't know if black works here. Let's stick to the white. Okay. Let's stick to the white and let's increase this as much as we possibly can. Let's use 25. That's what 25 looks like. Okay, 25 looks good. 25 looks good. And then for the divider, we can change this thing to just say 15. For the divider, 15 works. Or let's just take out the divider entirely. Okay, that looks good. And then we can shrink this thing a bit. So it's going to sit somewhere like this. You get? So this is what our average star rating looks like. Okay, it's looking good so far. Fantastic. So the next thing we're going to need here is our area charts. As I'll be building, it's going to be our area charts. And I'm going to drag in from our, calendar. I will drag in let's just drag in the month number. We'll put that in the x-axis. And then for this one, we'll drag in the sales. I will put it here. It's going to look like this. Right? It's going to look like this. So quickly format this. Same formatting. We don't want any title. We don't want any background. We don't want anything. We just want it plain. Same thing on the x-axis. You take out everything there. And then for the line, we want to use our primary color, which is this. I want to use our primary color, which is this. You shrink this down. Okay, you shrink this down. And then you put it here. Okay, you put it right there. So this will show the trend. Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and Ctrl-Z. So Ctrl-C, V, we'll have one here. Just make sure everything aligns properly. Okay, so for this, it's going to be quantity sold instead of total sales. Going to be quantity sold instead of total sales. For this, it's going to be total orders. So I can take this out. I'm bringing total orders. This will be the shipping trend. This is going to be the shipping trend. Let me confirm what I used there. Get total shipping. It's going to be total shipping. And just like that, we are almost done with our card visual. But we are still not done. Okay, we are still not done. So the next thing I'm going to do here, still on this card visual, is to create a stacked bar chart. It's to create a stacked bar chart. So I'll quickly drag in the local sales, local sales, and I'll drag in the international sales. It's going to look something like this. Okay, It's going to look something like this. So quickly, we don't want any titles. We don't want any line. We're going to turn off everything here. We don't want any of this. Okay. Turn them off. The only thing I will turn on is going to be our data labels. Okay. It's going to be our data labels. And then for the bars, let me close this up. These things can be crazy. So for our bars, for the local, we're going to use this. And for the international, we'll be using this right here. Okay? We're using that right there. So we'll shrink. Let's see how we can shrink this in. And just like that, we'll have a makeshift bar here to give us some insights. Okay? To give us some insights right there. All right, so I'll quickly duplicate that as well. Control C, Control V. This time around is going to be local. Instead of local sales, it's going to be local orders. It's going to be local orders, and it's going to be international. So it's not local orders, it's going to be local quantity sold. And then it's going to be international quantity sold. So same thing, go to the bars for local. We use this for international. We're going to use this, okay? Make sure everything aligns. Make sure everything aligns properly. That alignment is what's going to make it look a little bit off. But make sure everything aligns properly. We can mark all of this and we can push it up a bit. All right. Let's move this inside a little bit to give our chart some breathing room right there. So this, because we're playing around with gender at the bottom, gender changes, we'll be using the male orders here, and we'll be using the female. We're using the female orders here as well. Same thing. We're going to use male and then female right here. So this was we'll have to shrink this down a little bit. We'll have to shrink this down a little bit to make sure everything let's see. All right, so we'll have our visual right here. Our visual right here, and for this is just pretty much good. All right. So the next thing we will be doing right now is to write some DAX measures for our time intelligence. Okay, for our time intelligence. So the first thing we'll be writing here, I think we'll have our dynamic month. So this is what I'll be using this for, right? This dynamic month. I'm going to create since they've taken out the normal card visual, I can't find it here anymore. To be fair, it's no longer redundant. It's no longer useful, rather. We'll have our card visual here, or rather still, let me just pick one of this so that I don't have to reformat. And then I'm going to drag in that dynamic month, and I'm going to put it right there. Okay, I'm going to put it right there. I don't want the label, and the value I need it to be like 8. Okay, I want it to be like 8 right there because I don't want it intruding. It's going to look like this. Okay, it's going to look like this. Really tiny up top right there. Control V. I'll just drop it here, V. V. And I'll mark all 4 of them. And then I'll format. And I will align to the top. Boom, there we go. So this will just tell you to select your month, okay? That's going to tell you to select your month. So let's go ahead and let's start writing our time intelligence DAX measures, okay? So we'll be starting with our sales. We'll be starting with our sales. So we need 2. We need one that will give us the actual change, month over month change. And then we'll write a second one that we're going to use to apply the conditional formatting on top of it, okay? We're going to attach one that will actually help us, have when it is greater, it goes up, when it is lesser, the arrow will be facing down. All of this will be available for you guys, by the way. So let's go over to our time intelligence right here and put an underscore. I lost the file I started the class with you guys, so I'm sorry about that. I have to do it all over again. So let's go over to our time intelligence. Once you understand one, the rest basically becomes easy. All right. All right. So here, let me delete all of this. We don't need those. We'll write it. All right. So we're going to write our first measure here. So we're going to get our month over month. And I'll paste the code. I already have it here. Okay. I already have it here. So basically, this is for our sales. All right. What we are doing here, this is for the formatting because we need this for the conditional formatting. So what I'm saying is that we're assigning a variable sales to our total sales measure, right? And then our previous month, we're just using the calculate function to get our previous month using the date add function, okay? And then the difference is the sales minus our previous month sales, and then we divide it to get the percentage change. You understand? And then we divide it to get the percentage change. So this is it. I'll pause it right here. And I advise to do so as well to get the code. But again, the code will be available. In fact, I think I'll be giving you guys this PBIX file. So let's run that. So if I were to pull a card in here and I drag in that month here, you'll see that this is what it's giving us. All right. This is what it is giving us. I think I need to tweak this one more time in the sense that when no slicer is being selected, I want it to return nothing. Okay. I want it to return nothing. And I think I have the code right here. It's going to look something like this. It's going to look something like that. Let me pick the other code. It's going to look like that. Okay. So we have our month over month for sales. So for us to get the other ones, let me show you how easy it is. I will copy this. I will go to new measure. I will go to the measure. I will paste this here. I'm going to, for the next one, I think is going to be quantity. I will use Control D to highlight all of the sales and I'll change it to quantity, right? I'm going to change it to quantity. Now, I'm getting some errors. Okay, KPI sold, rather. KPI sold. And I'll run this. So that's for our quantity. We need for orders and shipping. So I'll do the same thing, new measure. I'll paste, I'll highlight this, hold Control D and make sure everything is selected. And I'm going to type in orders. You understand? And just like that, we'll have our third measure. and then new measure. I'll paste this here and I'll highlight this. And this time around is going to be shipping. It's going to be shipping. That's just it. That's just it right there. And then what next? We'll have all 4 of them. Okay. Now we need to get the one that will actually be what we will be putting in front right there. Okay. And that one looks like this. This is the one we're using to apply our conditional formatting. It's going to look like this, right? It's fairly long. Again, I don't want to go into the details, but just leave it as this. So basically what this does is that it takes in everything we've done and we're building on top of it. It checks if our slicer has a month selected. If yes, it will run whatever it needs to run. If not, or if no, it's going to return nothing. You understand? It's going to return nothing. And just like that, we just use the if statement to apply some conditional formatting to give us the up and down arrow right there. So I'll do this. Just like we did before, new measure, V, okay, V. I'll mark this, all the sales, we change this to quantity sold. You understand? Quantity sold, okay? We can use QTY here, and we can use QTY here, and everything looks good. We'll do the same for others. We'll mark all of this, sales, hold Ctrl Z, change it to others. And then shipping. This is the fastest way of reusing your DAX measures so that you don't end up rewriting and rewriting your code all over again. Okay, so we'll have all of our measures needed for our time intelligence completed. Okay, all right. So now the next thing we'll be doing, I'll duplicate this real quick. I'm gonna duplicate this. I will duplicate this, and I'm just going to put it underneath. Let's increase this a bit. And then I'm going to drag in. So instead of this, I will drag in our month over month. What's the first one there? Sales. I'm going to put it right there. Okay. I'm going to put it right there. You might not see anything happening, but let's go over to the call outs. And then for our color, I'm going to use the conditional formatting. All right. And then I'll change, it's going to be on rules. What am I going to pick? I'll just type in F here, and I'll pick the month over month sales, F. So basically what I'm telling it here is, if this value here is greater, if this value here is greater than 0, okay, and less than, you can put a very large number here. Let's just use 10,000, 100,000. That means there's a positive growth. So I want to use a green. So we can use a green here. Let me use this green. Let me copy it. It might be a nice one. All right. And then new rule, if it is equal to 0, right? If it is equal to 0, we want to use our normal whites. And then the third rule, if it is greater than minus, you can put a very large number here that you know is not going to be possible, but less than 0, then we're going to use red. Okay? We're going to use red. Let me get that color code as well. And then I'll hit OK. Now, it feels like nothing is happening, right? Let me create a slicer real quick. And let me drag in Let me drag in the year month. Let me put it right here. Are you seeing what's happening? Can you see what's happening? I see that it is changing depending on the growth. You get? So that is how we'll be able to get this right there. Maybe we can increase the call out value. Let's increase it to say 10. Let's see. Are you seeing it? Can you see it? Fantastic. That's how it works. Beautiful. All right. I'll just keep this here for now. This takes the longest time, by the way. Let's just put something on so that we can track it easily. So Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. I'll bring it there. Just copy. I think you should copy for all of them. You can see make sure everything is aligned. So all we need to do is just to swap out. Just to swap out those values. All right. So for this one, it's gonna be month over month sales. It's going to be quantity, right? It's gonna be quantity. Okay. It's gonna be quantity. And then I'll come here to our callouts, that value. I will change this. Instead of sales, we're going to use the quantity here. Boom. Are you seeing it? I'll come over here. Let's just change all at once. This is going to be orders. So F is going to be orders, F. And this is going to be shipping, F. And I'll click OK. Okay. And then I'm going to click OK. So I will quickly come here and I'll swap this with the orders, total orders. And then I'll track this with the shipping. And just like that, we have our KPIs good to go. Okay. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. If you feel you want to make it bigger, you can go ahead. Let's see if we can increase this to 12. What would that look like? Perfect. I can see also the text above is also dynamic. Can you see? Text above is also dynamic. All right, cool. So let's dive in straight into our analysis. Okay. So the first thing we're asked to is to get our trend over time. So if we look right here, I'm going to be very fast with this. One of the first questions there is, what is the overall trend? What's the overall sales trend over time? So let's quickly answer that question. So before I will be able to answer this, I'm going to quickly go to optimize. Not optimize, I'll go to modeling and I'll be bringing in a new field parameter. Okay, I'll be bringing in a field parameter. So what are the fields I want to bring in here? Let's call this, we can call this sale type. Okay, I'm going to bring in, if I go to our measures, I want to bring in local sales and international sales. All right, so I'll bring in the local sales here and I'll bring in international sales here, and then I'll click create. And just like that, we'll have, right? We'll have this right here. We'll have this right here. So I'm going to call this international sales. International sales. Okay. We'll have this right here. And I'm going to comment it. Now watch very close attention. I'm going to create I'll quickly duplicate this. I'll duplicate this. All right. Let's expand. we'll be using this right here, okay? We'll be using this right here. And then what next? Instead of month number, I'm going to swap this thing to our year month, okay? I'm going to swap this thing to our year month, okay? I'm going to swap this into our year month. I need, on the y-axis, I need the values. On the x-axis, rather, I need the values, all right? I need the values, change this to this, okay? I need the values, and then what happens next? I would come here and I'll take this out, and I'll come down to this parameter I created, and I'll drag the value there, and I'm going to put it right. We're going to put it right there in the x-axis, and it's going to look something like this, right? It's going to look something like this, okay? Now, don't worry. It's going to look something like this. So let's quickly format this real quick. Everything is looking good so far. The line, this works best. Well, if you're looking for aesthetics, you can change it to the curvy lines, but this is more accurate, okay? So for our local sales, the color should be this. For our international sales, the color should be this. So it's going to look like this. So we'll have our trend, okay? We'll have our trend. For our title, I'm going to use Sego UI, and I'm going to change this thing to 10, make it bold, and use this. That might be too much. We're going to use this, okay? So we'll have our line charts right here, okay? We'll have our line charts right here. Now, look at what happens. When I click on international sales, are you seeing? When I click on local sales, can you see how it is alternating between the both of them? All right, cool. So I'm going to quickly change this to I'm going to change this to a button slicer. That's what I'm going to change this to, a button slicer. So it's going to look like this. It's going to look like this up here. All right, it's going to look like that up there. And then I will quickly go to the general, and we don't need the title anymore. We don't need the title anymore. We don't need the background. We don't need the background there. Now, this is where the formatting comes into place. So for the slicer, everything is looking nice. We'll have to force a selection. Or if you don't want to, okay, let's leave this, right? Let's leave this. We don't have to force a selection here. So for the call out value, let's use Sego UI 10. Okay, let's use Sego UI 10. Let's use 10, or 10 might be too much. Let's use 8. Perfect. So that we can shrink this even further. We can shrink this even further. Okay, this is... All right. Now, let's put it right there in the middle. Let's put it right there in the middle. And then, now we need to start fixing up. So for when our default states of our text, okay, this works. All right, this works. Now, let's see if we make this bold, if it's going to be any better. Let me change both of these to 2. By the way, this will be perfect. Now, I'm going to collapse this because I don't want us to be confused. Now, let's look at our buttons. All right, let's look at our buttons. So by default, right, this is all buttons states by default. We want the background. We don't want the border. We don't want the border. We want the background there. And then the fill color, we can use something like this. Yes, we can use something like this. Okay, we can use something like that. We can use something like that. For the shape, let's use a rounded rectangle. But let's change this into like 8. Let's change this into like 8. Okay. So far, so good. So if this is overlapping this, all you need to do is to go to your formats and you send this thing to the back. That's all you need to do. This now becomes the one in the hierarchy. All right. So let's click on this, and then so for the buttons, all as well, well, you're going to use that same rectangle, and we'll change this thing to that 8. Okay, we'll change this to 8. Now, when we hover around it, what do we want that color to be there? So that color will be this. Okay, that color will be this one. Hover around it. When we press it, let's use red. Okay, when we press it, let's use red. And then when it is selected, we want to use green. Okay, we want to use green. That's what we want to do right there. And just like that, we can alternate between local and international sales. We can alter between local and international sales. Okay. But there's something. Let me play around with that button. There's something I am missing here. Let's look at the call out value. We can't go lower than 8, by the way. Just feels like I'm missing something. Anyways, it's going to look like this. Okay? It's going to look like this. And just like that, we'll have our sales right here. Okay? But I don't know if it's because of the... Let me zoom back a bit. Okay, this is what it looks like. This is better. Now, we're going to quickly build the rest of our charts. I'll be fast about this. Let's just duplicate this, Ctrl CV. And I'm going to change this to... this. All right? I'm going to change this to this. So the next thing I need here is going to be... Let's look at the questions. Remember, we're trying to answer the question. So what product categories perform the best? And all of this. So we'll be answering this question now, this one, and part of this as well right now. So what product category performed best and the demographic? So I will be changing this year month to our age group. So if I go to our sales facts, I'm going to pick our buyers age bucket, and I'll put it here in the x-axis. All right, I'm going to put it there in the x-axis, and I'll pull in that here on the y-axis. So it's going to look something like this. It's going to look something like this. Let's adjust this real quick. Okay, so you can see right here, and then we'll quickly format. Okay, let's come over here, and then for the bars, we want the border. It's just down to personal preference, by the way. I like that color right there. And then for the layouts, maybe the space between category, we can shrink it just a little bit. For the x-axis, let's use this so that it blends in perfectly into the background. And then for the color, so for local sales is going to be this. And international sales is going to be this. Okay. And finally, I will turn on our data labels right there. I'll turn on our data labels right here. Our data label should be bold. Data label should be bold, but small. Okay, it should be bold, but small. Color should be this. All right, the color should be this. So this is how, and finally our legend. Let's also use something like this. Okay, and just like that, we'll have same thing here as well. Legend should be visible. Just like that, we'll have our sales. Okay, I will just duplicate, and the only thing I'm going to swap here is going to be our from each bracket, we change this to product category. I'm going to change this to product category here to find out what products are performing the best. Understand? What products are performing the best. So have something like this. You see how fast we are moving right now. Okay. So good. All fine and well. Let's continue. Here we're going to need a matrix. We're going to need a matrix. That matrix will be responsible for. It's going to be responsible. I think we'll be using a table instead. It's going to be responsible for our location analysis. Okay. So what do I want to pull in here? I want to pull in our location states. I want to pull in the location. I want to pull in the total orders. I want to pull in the total orders. Okay. I want to pull in the total orders. We want to pull in total quantity sold. So this is just a location breakdown. Total quantity sold. We want to pull in the total revenue generated. Okay. Total revenue generated. And then the month-over-month sales. Okay. Month-over-month sales. And then finally, what do we want to do? We want to add. I'm going to drag in that sales again. But this time around, we want to show it as a sparkline. So summary. So this is our total sales. Our x-axis is going to be, I'll go towards our calendar, and then I'm going to pick month number. Okay. And then I'll create crits. And just like that, we'll have our sparkline here. I don't think we need the second sales, by the way, so I'll take that out. So we'll have something like this right here. Okay. Or something like this right here. We're going to edit this. So first things first, let me pick up the colors real quick. And pick up the colors we need real quick. Ctrl C. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do here is, I will quickly change the preset from default to minimal. First things first, default to minimal. And the second thing I want to do is we don't need the title. Okay. We don't need the title here. The third thing I would do is we don't need the grid. Okay. We don't need that grid. And then for the values, the text color should be this white. The background color should be this. Alternate text color should still be that color, and the background color should also be that. And just like that, we'll have that all settled. Our column headers, the column headers, the background color should be this, and the text should be this. We can make them bold to stand out. And it's going to look something like this. Right? We're going to make them bold to stand out. Can adjust. We're going to adjust accordingly. Don't worry. We're going to adjust accordingly to make sure everything blends. And let's just go general. We don't need any background as well. And it fits perfectly fine. Now, what next? What next? What next? What next? So for the total orders, okay, for the total orders, I will go down to, let me collapse everything. So I'll go down to cell elements, right? So for the total orders, I want to show this as a data bar, okay? For the total orders, I'll format this. For the positive, we're going to use, no, not that. For the positive, we're going to be using our primary color. Negative can be anything, doesn't really matter. And I don't want to, I don't want to show numbers, only the bars. And I'll click on OK. I'll have something like this. All right. For the total quantity sold, that one is pretty much straightforward, and I'm good to go. For the total quantity sold, pretty much straightforward and good to go. For our total revenue, is also pretty much straightforward and good to go. So let's come to our spark line. I want to change the spark line from line to column, okay? And I want to use this color right here. Cool. And then finally, our month over month. So for our month over month sales, I want to use a font color, okay? We're using the F, just like we did before. F for sales. So if that is greater than 0, but less than a large number there, what I want to do, I want to change the color to, here's that green. Oh, that's red. Green, right there, okay? New rule, if it's equal to 0, I want to return, let's use the whites. And then if it is greater than minus that large number there, I want to make sure this is a number, but less than 0, I want to return the red. And then I'll click OK. Now if I select this, we'll have something like this right there. Well, it's not giving me what I want. Okay. All right. So far, so good. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. So let's look at that value one more time. Let's see what the problem is. So month over month sales, okay? Month over month sales. So if it's greater than minus this, or less than 0, sorry, I chose a wrong number. Supposed to be this one. No, I think it's this. Yes. Boom. And it's going to look like this. Okay. And then finally see how difficult it is. So finally for our column headers, now let's look for the grid border. We can use whites there. And the final thing we need to do is to turn on our title. And we'll just give this the location analysis. Location analysis. Right there, we use Several UI. All right, so you can see how beautiful and our page one is looking. But we're not done. We're going to make this even better. We're going to make this even better. Okay. But so far, it's been amazing. Okay. We're done with the page one. By the way, we're done with our page one. So let's just quickly bring in our slicers. All right. Let's quickly bring in our slicers. So I'll be using the old slicer for this, by the way. I'll be using the old slicer. Let's quickly format this. Okay. For the effect, we don't want any background. So the slider setting, instead of a vertical list, I'm going to use a drop down. All right. I'm going to use a drop down. I'm going to use a drop down right here. And then I'm going to use a drop down right there. So for the slicer header, we're going to use Sego UI bold. Then, okay, if that's too much, we can use something a little bit more blended in. All right. And then for our values, the font color black works, the background, we can use this. All right. We can use this for the background. And just like that, we'll have our year slicer right here. Perfect. Let's see if I can tweak this thing just a little bit. The slicer header, maybe 9. All right. So I'm going to quickly duplicate this, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. We'll bring in our star rating. We're going to bring in our star rating. The star rating. Instead, I can see. And then our, let's use gender. Should we use location? Or gender location? Let's use location. Or the location. You can add more sliders if you want, by the way. So, what next? I think I need to change something. For the values, the font color should be, let's use this one. Or should we use black? Yes, let's use black. Let me quickly let's clear that real quick. All right, so far it's looking good. Then you can sort it in whatever you feel is the most important. Let's sort this by order. It's going to look like this. Okay? It's going to look like this. Perfect. Perfect. Now, so what's happening here? Let's see if we can fix that real quick. Okay. I think I would have written the tax measure to automatically pick this thing, but that would be too much for you guys at the moment. So we'll just leave it like this. It still works nicely. All right, fantastic. That's cool. It's looking good, looking nice so far. So the next thing you need here is, everything is looking good at the moment. I think we're done with page one. Okay, the final thing I'm going to add here is I'm going to quickly insert A. So if we have the location here, that was the reason why I think I swapped this out for gender. Let's change that to, we can use product category instead of location. Why? Because I created a text, not button. I created a text slicer, and I used the location. I used the location here. There's a location here. Let me just quickly, we don't want that. We don't want that. Here, input text. What's the input text? Input text is enter location. Enter location. Okay, enter location. And we can make it smaller. And then we don't want any of this right there. That text should be in white color like this. So when you use this text to search for a particular location, that's how we made this text box interactive. Okay, that's it. Beautiful. All right. So what next? What next? Let me duplicate this. Control CV, and then let me drag in. I think I had a measure. I think I had a measure to tell us the current timestamp. Yeah, we're gonna put it right here. But this timestamp will just tell us the last time where all the user signed in. Okay, so we can just put it underneath here. Just make it so the person has been active. You can see it right there. So whenever you open your your stuff, I don't know why this is just skipping. It's too close. So I'm gonna make this faint, and possibly just I want it to be just there. Okay, and this was the last time the person signed in. All right, and the first page is looking quite nice. The first page, we're not done. Okay, we're not done. But let's go over to our page 2. I'm going to blow through page 2. The first thing I'm going to do here is to mark all of this. Control C, Control V. What? I think I marked the wrong values. Let's mark them again. Control V, and let's sync. Perfect. And then, sorry, it is prompting me to sign in. 1 second. It's prompting me to resign in. So we're going to use this page to answer the rest of our questions. We'll be using this page to help us answer the rest of our questions. Okay. All right. So let's dive in real quick. I'm going to quickly copy this because I'll be using the same Control C, and I'm going to paste it here. I'll use this for something else. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another. I'm going to create another 2 more parameters, by the way. Few parameters. Let's call this KPIs. And what do I want to bring in? I want to bring in the total sales, quantity sold, and then total orders. These are the 3 I want to bring in. Okay. In fact, I don't want to add this. Let's just create it. Perfect. And then I want to also add a second one. We'll call this, let's just call this shipping. Let's call this shipping. The next thing I want to pass in there is going to be the average shipping and then the total shipping. Again, I don't want to add it to the page. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Let me quickly grab this. Let me quickly grab this right here. Control C. I'm going to place it here. And instead of this cell type, I'll go over to, let me collapse. I need to collapse everything. It's becoming convoluted. So you guys don't get confused. So I will be dragging in, I'll be dragging in KPIs, all right, that I created, and I'll replace it with it. Okay. And I'm going to replace it with it. Let me take this out. Hope it's not affecting this one here. It is. It is. So Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. It is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and then I'm going to paste, but I don't want to sync. So I'll grab that. I'm going to grab the KPIs and I'm going to replace it here. Okay, that didn't work. Let's redrag it in there. Let's hope it's not affecting this one. Perfect. Perfect. So what the next thing I'll do here is to drag it here and I'm going to expand. I'm going to expand and the slicer settings, here we need to force selection, right? We have to force selection because one must be selected. And then for the multi, this thing, we want to have 3 columns. And it's going to look like this. We want to have 3 columns right here. So we can alternate between the 3 of them. Yes, we can alternate between the 3 of them. You can drag towards the edges. And if this isn't square enough, you can go down to the buttons and you can increase to make sure it fills perfectly with the rest. Let's see. Defaults 16. All right, so it's going to look like this. All right, it's going to look like this. Maybe 16 might be too much, but you can just adjust it to your own taste, okay? Now, the next thing I'll be doing right here is going to be very simple. I'm going to pick, I'll be picking this chart, Control C, and I'll be using it here, Control V, okay? What am I changing here? Instead of product category, I'm going to drag in the actual product ID here, actual product ID here, and I'll take out this cell type and I'll pull in our KPI in here. And it's going to look like this. You can see, looking real good. And then what next? I also want to have something like this, right? But here, what do we need? Instead of other location, I just need the gender. Sales facts, to drag in the buyer's gender, and I'll put it right there. Okay, and I'll put it right there. I will change this from a table down to a matrix Y because we want to perform aggregation. Yes, we want to perform aggregation. So buyer's age, not buyer's age, buyer's gender. We want to perform aggregation here. That is why I had to switch from a table to a matrix. I'll tell you how that works. We don't need this. The only thing we need are the 3 main KPIs and our star rating. and our star rating. I'm going to put it right there. All right, cool. Let's come over here. We don't need any subtotal. And then for the row headers, the text is white. The color, the background color should be, here's the color I used, this. Okay, should be that. And then what else? What else? Do we need any divider for the row headers? Okay. I'm trying to see if we will have to use. Do we need any border? Okay, this works. This works, right? This works right here. So we'll have this information here. So far, so good. Then I will quickly create a pie chart, or a donut rather. And what am I going to drag in? I will drag in our buyer's gender into the legend, and our value will still be that's KPI. Our value will still be that's KPI. We don't want any background here. So for this, we don't need this. We don't need the legends. We don't need the legends for the slice. For the male will be this. Female will be this. Okay, female will be this. I'm going to quickly expand. I'm going to quickly expand this. You can arrange the spacing to your taste. If you like smaller, that works. And then the detailed value should be this. And then you can decide to put on all of the values if you want, right there. Okay, should put it on right there. All right. So yeah, everything is looking good for the title. We want to use Sego UI. Then bold. Text color should be this. Okay, text color should be this. I can bring this down a bit to give this a little bit of space. And probably I'll probably rotate the, let's rotate it a bit. All right, so it should look something like this. No, I don't want both of them to be on one side. All right, this works. So you can alternate between this. Right? You can alternate between this, and you can see how it is changing. Okay? All right, so the final thing we need to do here is, let me quickly duplicate this. I'll change this into this. All right? I'm going to change this into this real quick. And then what do we need here? All right. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do here real quick, this should be wrapping up. I've taken way too much time, is we'll be swapping this. We'll be using product categories here. So instead of product ID, we will be using our year month, by the way. We'll be using the year month. The calendar. I'm going to drag in the year month. Actually, when if I'm being frank with you guys, okay, when you put the year month, if yours isn't sorted, right, you go to your model, right? You go to your model, it's not going to sort properly. You go to calendar, right? You can see what I did here. Go to calendar, you select that year month. It's a little bit tricky to sort, and then you go to advanced. And when you go to advanced, you use sort by column. So I'm going to use year month sorts to sort by column. Okay, that's the only way that thing is going to work properly. I think it's auto sorted for me because I've used this sheet before, but that's what you should do on your own, by the way. All right. So we'll have this right here, and I'm going to drag in our shipping. So it's going to be product category, by the way. So for our legend, I'm going to drag in product category. I don't want to use this one. I want to use this one instead. All right, cool. I want to use this instead. So this is a little bit too noisy. All right, that's a little bit too noisy. Let's create one more KPI. One more, okay, I think I already created it. So here, instead of KPIs, I'm going to drag in that shipping, and I'm going to replace it there with our y-axis. All right. So far, it's looking good. It's looking good so far. Let's bring this down a little bit. Now, too much going on. So I will turn off the data label. I'm going to turn off the data label. Right. I'm going to turn off the data label. And let me quickly duplicate this. Control CV. Control CV. Let's take this out as well. We don't want this. Rather, we want to use that shipping here. So we can alternate between both your average and your total shipping. Okay. So that's also going to be right here for us to use. So the final thing we'll do is to quickly format. So for the columns, we can use clothing there. We can use this for the ornaments. We can also use this, but we'll change the color. Let's use something a little bit. Let's use something. Okay. And then for others, we can use this one here. We don't want any borders for anything right there. And then we can tweak the layout to reduce the space between categories a little bit. Okay, we can do that. All right, looks really good. So let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up real quick. I'm going to quickly format this, and I'm going to put it right here. Okay, I'll take this out. Hope I'm recording. I'll take this out, and I'll replace this with the products category. Okay, replace this with products category. When selected, let me just tweak this a bit. Buttons, when selected, let me use this one. This will stand out. All right. So we'll have this right here. You can see that as I'm toggling between this, you can see how it's working. Can you see? Perfect. But for this one, we don't want to force single select. So I'm going to take this out. So we can actually turn this off. Okay? We can turn this off right here. So we're going to quickly, let me pick this. Control C, Control V. So yes, that's let me take this out. I don't think we need this. Rather, I'm going to pull that star rating. The star rating. I'm just going to push it here. So it's going to be side by side. Can you see? It's going to be side by side. And then I'll drag it there to the top. We can change the color values to black to make it pop, if that works, and label to black as well. And the label to black as well. And then let's make it bold. Let's make it bold. Then the padding, let's see if we can increase the padding. No, individual padding. Let's see. No, that's not what I need. That's not what I need right now. Let's close this up. Let's get the card. That divider, I want to increase it. Let me see if it works. Okay. Regardless. Maybe we can pull it like this. Okay. No time. Now, what I need here is very simple. Control CV. We duplicate this, and I'm going to change this thing to the star rating. Star rating. Where are you? Star rating. I'm going to change this to the star rating. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to shrink it down here. Star rating there. For the bars, we can use, let's see if black works. Okay, black works. And then space, I can increase this because I want this to be as small as possible. So we'll have this right there. We don't want no data labels. And then for the x-axis, we're finna use this as well. All right. I'm gonna use this as well for the title. We use something similar to, let's shrink this down to 8. All right. So I'll duplicate this. And this is going to be, the thing I'll change here, it's going to be, we're going to use the product categories here. Instead of rating stars, we're going to use the products category. And just like that, we'll have this right here. I don't know if the black works or the white. I don't know which one works better. Or whichever one that works better. Maybe I will end up changing mine to white after the video. But either way, I'll cross check. You just switch and confirm. Okay, so now if I select this and this, you can see it is working perfectly fine. But now, let me show you guys something. All right, let me show you guys something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go right there to formats, edit interactions. I don't want this thing to affect this thing when I select the slider, so I'll turn it off. You understand? I'll turn it off. Now, if I select this, it's going to affect every other thing, but can you see? And you don't just go ahead to pull charts in. You need to also learn how to edit your interactions. And I also do that as well in the first page. Oh, the final thing we'll be doing here is very simple. I will let's drag this, Ctrl C. Control V. Okay. So this is gender, not location. This is gender. This is gender. And then this right here, this would be complaints. So we want to show compliance. So we want to show our complaint analysis here. So what do we need here? First of all, we need our review. We're going to drag in our review. I'll put it right here. Boom. We don't need any of these things. The only thing I want to keep there is going to be, I'm going to take all of them out. I will drag in total orders, and then the average star rating, right? And we can sort this by maybe the lowest. You get. So it's going to look like this. All right. I'll bring this right down here. You can add conditional formatting to the stars. When it is low, you can put this thing right there. You get. So you can sort this here. All right, cool. And this will give us the opportunity. This will give us the opportunity to look at our data and see the major problems we are facing. So far, so good. So far, so good here. Now, we need to work on two more things, okay? We need to work on two more things here. It is looking like it's giving, it's beautiful. I like it. What do you guys think? Now, the final thing we'll be doing here is going to be, of course, this here, all you need to do is just add your, if you want to add your name here, I've added mine there, but if you want to add your socials here, you can easily import. So I'm going to leave that blank, but you can import the image. You can import the image that you want, and then you can link it. All right. You can link it using an hyperlink there. Maybe you want to set your portfolio link or whatever here. So I'm going to leave that as is. Now, the final thing we'll be doing here, if you notice on my own copy, here, when you look at this, when you come here, you're going to see, can you see? So I'm going to show you how to do this real quick. And also this as well. All right. And then we're going to create our page navigation. Okay. So I'm going to create a new, we'll call this line tooltip. Those are custom tooltip. We'll call this line tooltip. And then let me get the actual dimensions. 1 sec. So you go over to this place and you come to page information and you allow as tooltip. It's going to shrink in, right? It's going to shrink in. It's going to shrink in for you. So what do? We'll start tweaking. Let me quickly just grab one of this. First of all, let me drop it here. Right? We can use this. Right here. But before anything, I need to change the background color. to our normal color so that it works. So let me quickly do that. The background, canvas setting, the background color should be this. Okay, transparency 0. And then we'll have this right here. Now, I can do something like this. Yes, let's switch it up a bit. I can do something like this. And then all I need to do is to come here and pick this here, Control C, and I'll paste this here, Control V. It's big. I'm gonna shrink it down. Okay, I'm gonna shrink it down. Let me turn off a few things. We don't need the legend. We don't need the label. And we don't need the title. So I can go ahead and I can expand this. So it's not giving me what I want. So I might end up switching. All right, let me come here and then let's look at our visual. Instead of horizontal, let's change this to vertical. Let's see. Let's change this to all right. I'm just going to quickly switch this back to this. All right. I'm going to switch this back to this. We'll use this one instead. Okay. And then for this, all I need to do is to bring in my international sales and local sales here. Okay. That I will do. For the reference label, I'll just take this out. I'll take this out. And then for our callout value, let's bring this down. Perfect. So we'll have this right here. Okay. I will duplicate it. This would be our age. That's going to be our age, gender, tooltip. So what did I use there for the age, gender, tooltip? Okay. So I changed this thing to this. And then instead of product category, I think I used male. Let me confirm what I did there. So I used male and female order here. Male and female order here. So male. Jesus Christ. I don't know why my eyes become so heavy when I'm using. So male order will be this, female will be this. All right, so far so good. So far so good. Now, let's put this into full-blown effects. So let's put this into full-blown effects. All right. So I'll come here and I will go to this. I'll go to general and I'll use tooltip. So the tooltip, we're going to use a report page. And for that report page, I'm going to use the line tooltip. If I come here now, you will see here that we'll have our data. And then for this tool, we're going to use the same thing. But here, we'll be using this age agenda for this. Okay. And just like that, you can see that we'll have our tooltips there. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Let's turn on the details, full details. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, the final thing we need to do here to wrap up this project is to make sure that when we go over this our tooltip here, we have we have a problem and we'll have like a summary of each page. Okay, we'll have a summary of this page. It's long. It's long. Look at the page summary one. I have to use HTML for this, so I can't really explain all of this right now. This is full-blown HTML and CSS, but the code is there for you. Okay, the code is there for you, and you'll be needing a special kind of viewer, which is the HTML content viewer, and for and it is not a native viewership. So to get this, you would have to come here and you will import visual from file. I'm going to add the visual to the description, to the GitHub repo, and then you import it. Then you can use it. Okay, then you can use it. So before anything here, I'm going to get this, right? I'm going to get this Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. I will duplicate it and I'm going to expand this and I'll put it here. You will see why I needed that blank. I will take this out and I'll pick that blank and I'll drop it here. It's going to be blank like that. Fantastic. Now, let's duplicate this. Let's duplicate this. Let me get the page dimension there. Let me get the page dimension. So I think I use on mine, I use 720/500, okay? Delete everything and we use custom 720/500. All right. Then we'll bring in this new visual here. We'll drag it to the bottom and then I'm going to drag this page summary and I'll put it here. And we'll have something like this here. We'll have something like this here. So I'll quickly come to general effects. I don't want any background. Perfect. Right? Let's call this AA or whatever name you want to give it. I'll duplicate. And this time around, we'll be using, I think we'll be using a longer one because the summary is quite long. And what is the definition? What's the size of that? 1111523. Okay. So 1111523. 1111523. That's all. And I'll bring this down. And I'll replace this with the 2. And just like that, we'll have our second summary. So that will have our second summary. Now, what do we do here? Right click. We're going to hide. Right click, hide, hide, hide. Oh no, I don't want to delete cancel. Hide. Give them proper names. Hide. I'll come here and then here I'll go to general tooltip and then I'm going to pick this. Whenever I come for the page summary and I over this, boom, you have it right there. And then I'll just copy the same thing here. Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. I'll paste it right here. And we'll do the same thing. Do the same thing. The tooltip is going to be this. Boom. Can you see? Fantastic. We're almost done. We're almost done. It's been a long. So the final thing we're going to do here is to get our page navigator. That'll be very quickly. And then we'll call it a day. Okay, so I'm going to quickly insert button, navigator, page navigator. So we'll have this here. We'll have this here. Let's see if we can pick. Let's see if we can format. And let's see if we can get it. Nope, didn't work. All right, so we're going to quickly work on this. So for the shape, we're going to use a rectangle. I'll take this up to 12 my work. Cool. Rotation style. No, grid layouts rather. This is going to be vertical. We'll have our page navigation like this. We'll have our page navigation right here. All right, cool. So there are a couple of things we need to touch on here. A couple of things we need to touch on. So far so good. Now let's go to the style. All right, let's go to the style. So for the style, by default, okay, 10 works. 10 works. When it is selected, we want it to be bold. Okay, when it's selected, we want it to be bold. Now, for the fill, when it is selected, we want the fill to be this. When it is pressed, that color works. When it is hovered, we want to use this. And when it is selected, by default, we want to use our traditional color. And just like that, we'll have our page navigator. Okay, we'll have our page navigator right there. You can shrink this a bit to make sure it aligns with, yes. All right, cool. I'll quickly copy this, Ctrl C, and then I'll paste it here. Perfecto. And just like that, we've finished our dynamic reports. So with this report here, we were successful in answering a lot of questions. For example, we're able to answer this, we're able to answer this, we're able to answer this, right? We're able to answer this, we're able to answer this, we're able to answer this as well. I think the little questions we were not able to answer is this too, all right? So you can expand upon it and you can go over and beyond to give you a little bit more. You can see how beautiful it is. As for this, like I told you, all you need to do is to import. So you can come here, insert. I'll just show you guys real quick. It's just to insert. What do you want to insert? We want to insert a lot of things have changed though. A lot of things have changed. That insert button, I can't find it, but I'll have to play around. After the updates, I think they moved a few things around. And then you insert your images, then you use your bookmark to connect them to your internet. I said internet, sorry. To your website or whatever link you want to use. Now, the final thing I want to do is whenever I use this mount slicer, I've got to modeling, think, and optimize. Whenever I use this mount slicer, right, I don't want it to affect any of this. So I don't want it to affect any of this. Okay? I don't want it to affect any of this. So I want to check it. Let me just move this to the side and this to the side. Let me come back here. I don't want it to affect this. I don't want it to affect this. And I don't want it to affect this as well. Okay? I don't want it to affect those things right there. And then I'll turn it off. And then I will just readjust. I will just readjust accordingly. And just like that, we've successfully built a beautiful, insightful report. Okay. Let's bring this down a bit. Let me select this and let me uncheck this. Let's see. All right, perfect. Let's drag this back in. And this right here is our dashboard report. So I know this is a very long one, but I believe you guys have picked up a lot of information. By the way, in order for you to get this long as measures, all you need to do is just describe what you want, give Claude or ChatGPT all the fields you want it to use, and then allow it to, it's going to come up with this, and you can test it to see what works for you. All right, that's just all you need to do. That's just it, and it's just going to be a whole lot faster, and it's going to make your work really, really look beautiful. Okay, and it's going to make your work look beautiful. So thank you guys very much for the time, and please do leave a like, subscribe, and also turn on post notifications for much more videos like this. I remain Into Daniel, and this is Talk Data with Danny. Goodbye.